What's up, guys? Mason the Brock Henderson here, and this is Arrow Season 6, Episode 17, Brothers in Arms. So, yeah, let's talk about this, because it's not getting any better. So first of all, let's talk about the smallest story, and that is Laurel's story. We see at the beginning of the episode, she's talking to Quentin, she's talking about trying to be Laurel again, and all that stuff. And then Diaz comes to visit her, and she's all like, talking to him, and she's like, you need to remember you're not actually Laurel. The Laurel I see in front of me doesn't need to change, and blah, 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 all that stuff. So we're dealing with all of that. I'm just kind of like, what's the point of all of this? Why are we doing this? So the only thing I can think of is that they are so trying to convince us that she is definitely working for Diaz, that whenever it turns out she's not working for Diaz in the end, like she actually is trying to change, guys, and be Laurel again, it'll surprise us, I guess. I don't know, like that's the only thing I could think of as to why they showed us these scenes with her and Diaz. Maybe not, maybe they're just trying to like really force it down our throats that, hey guys, look, they're together. They're a thing. They like each other. In which case it's also stupid. So either way, I'm just like, this is dumb. These scenes are dumb. And seeing them, making out at the end, I'm just like, oh, okay, so I guess there was some sort of Laurel Diaz ship out there because, as we know, pretty much the entire fan base for this show is all just people shipping, oh, Olicity all the way, oh, Lila and Diggle all the way, oh, go get Curtis a boyfriend, oh, bring Dinah's old partner back, oh, Thea and Roy, you know what, where's Donna? Donna hasn't been around. She and Quentin, weren't they cute? I swear, if Donna shows up in the next few episodes, I'm buying a lottery ticket because to call that is just ridiculous. Anyway, so yeah, that was really dumb and really short. We also see Dinah, I don't know why I was just about to call them Dirtus. Dinah and Curtis's side of the story, more stupidity because basically it's all about Curtis and his boy toy. No other reason. Yeah, I just think it's stupid. For a few reasons. One, why do we care about Curtis's love life? Aside from, obviously, the fan base, which is all just people shipping. Oh, go get Curtis a boyfriend. He hasn't had anybody in so long. He's lonely. And so, that's what happened. They're just like, hey, let's have him find some cute-looking cop, and let's have the cop fall for him as well. And it's stupid. He finds out he's a vigilante in this one, and then at the end of it, he's just like, at first, he's all, oh, I hate vigilantes. Oh, vigilantes are criminals too, blah, 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 blah. And so after he finds out Curtis is a vigilante, and Curtis is, of course, like, oh, now he's going to break up with me because he knows I'm a vigilante. Oh my gosh, I don't know what I'm going to do. He's going to come and be like, look, I like you. Even though you're a vigilante, I still like you. Which means, once again, one of two things. One, this is all just because the shippers wanted to see more about Curtis's love life. Or two, this guy is actually working for Diaz, and it's going to be one of those, oh, what a plot twist. Did you see that coming? Did you know that he was about to be working for Diaz? No, you didn't, because we're clever. We're clever. I'm sorry, how many times have you done this story? Laurel would be the best example. Oh, you thought she was good, but she's actually working for Diaz. Last season, Adrian Chase, he seems like a good guy, but he's actually Prometheus. They just do this storyline so many times. I'm like, who cares? So either this story is stupid, or it's stupid and cliche. Either way, still dumb. And as far as Dinah's concerned, she's just there pretty much to be the foil for Curtis to complain about the fact that he thinks his boyfriend's going to break up with him. There was a little scene between her and Oliver at the very beginning because they worked together for the first time in a long time, but that's about it. Nothing else for her in this episode. There is some story going on where they arrest Anatoly, but then he gets out anyway because Diaz has the entire, not just the police department, but also apparently the law firm. He has all these people on his payroll. So he's pretty much bought the entire city. So it's almost like everybody versus, Arrow. So yeah, that was about it. As far as Oliver's story, I don't know. Just out of nowhere, really, all of a sudden it becomes this huge blow-up between Oliver and John. And here's the thing. Some of the things they do talk about were not wrong. Like, that's one of the things. When I'm listening to the argument, I'm listening to both sides of it, and I'm hearing it, and I'm thinking, they're making good points. They're actually right about some of this stuff. John is making a very good point about the fact that Oliver is stretched too thin. He's trying to be a vigilante. He's trying to be a father. He's trying to be with Felicity. He's trying to be the mayor. All these things, yeah, he's stretched thin, and he has been. It makes a lot of sense. However, that doesn't mean he's right about being the, Green Arrow. That doesn't mean he's right about that, because he can't do it all on his own. That's a huge deal. And it's like, why don't you see that? Yes, Oliver isn't making the best decisions. However, you should be helping him, not fighting against him, not arguing with him about all of this. And yes, Oliver is being a little too harsh on John. I do agree with that as well. However, he's got to see it from Oliver's very used to being the leader. And he hasn't, like you said, he's been stretched very thin this past 2 seasons. So instead of turning it into a fight and yelling at him and coming at him with more aggression and rah, 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 I'm mad, I'm yelling at you, you're yelling at me, and we're all frustrated, Instead of it being that, it should be, okay, I see he's not fully there. He's stretched thin. He's that. I should see that, and I should also see that he's frustrated, so instead of yelling at him, which would cause him to yell back at me, I should be like, look, Oliver, this is what's going on. You're stretched thin. You got a lot of stuff on your plate. Let me help you. All right? Let me help you make some of these decisions. Instead of, Oliver, you're stretched thin. You suck at this job. You're making wrong decisions. You're wrong. You're wrong. I hate you. That's just going to lead to what happens in this episode, a fist fight. Because that's what guys are all about. So, I don't know. It feels like this was a warranted conversation. However, the aggression that came with this conversation was not needed. And I think that is the big thing, is that they made it into this huge, epic fight, when in reality, it shouldn't have been that at all. It's 2 guys with way too much testosterone going at it, instead of it being, hey, this needs to be just a civil conversation we need to have. This needs to be something that we figure out. Because, I don't know, that's all they think to do in the show. They think, oh, we got problems that we got to solve. Let's fight it out, because we're men. Just like, is this show written by a woman? Cares all about the relationships. Thinks that all men are just blockheads that like to fight about their problems. And thinks that Felicity is always right about every little thing. This feels like this was written by a woman. Like just listening to that entire conversation. Because no, Felicity is not right about everything. Just putting that out there. She's been wrong several times before, okay? But whatever the case, this first of these 4 episodes that I've got to watch to get caught up on, I don't know, it wasn't that interesting. And a lot of it is down to the fact that I still don't care about these characters. They haven't made me care in the past 2 seasons. I really don't. I don't care about Dinah and Curtis. I don't care about Oliver and Diggle and their, friendship and are they going to be able to get along and work together. I don't care about any of that because the show hasn't made me. So, oh yeah, I've got 4 episodes to watch to get caught up, and I'm not looking forward to it. And this is just the first of many. I guess just real quick talk about the main plot. Because Diaz is still, the big bad villain. Ooh, it's Diaz. How scary. So in this episode, they're taking down apparently he's been selling Vertigo, which is how he's making money. And so they managed to track down this buyer. John is like putting the pressure on him, which then causes the girl who works for Diaz to shoot this guy in the head. And of course, this leads to an argument where Oliver's like, look, you caused this girl to shoot him. Instead of just bringing him in to question him, you forced him to nearly give an answer, which then caused the girl to shoot him. That was stupid. Whereas Diggle's like, no, if you just let me put more pressure on him, we would have had the answer sooner, and we could have, you would have backed my play, watched the girl, and I could have gotten the info. Like, no, dude, you got the girl to shoot him because you forced him to tell you what was going on right in front of her. You made the stupid decision. But ultimately, they still managed to find out where all the Vertigo is being produced, and so they go in, they blow it up, and that's pretty much it. And then, like I said, on Dinah's side, they arrest Anatoly at the beginning, and because they did, then Anatoly and Diaz are trying to kill all these clean cops. There's also a moment where Oliver talks to Hill and Armand, the captain and the chief prosecutor. He's talking to them because he realizes both of them are Diaz payroll, and for some reason he thinks this is a good idea. I don't know why, but he decides to fire them because they're both working for Diaz. I'm just thinking to myself, that's stupid. That is stupid on so many levels, and it even more confirms what John was saying, that you're not making good decisions because, first of all, you just went to them with the information, hey, I know you're working for Diaz, which makes them even more suspicious that, how does he know this? Well, only the Green Arrow would know stuff like this. And then when he fires him, that gives them just more ammo to throw back at him. Hey, he's trying to obstruct justice because he knew we were getting close about him being the Green Arrow, so we're taking him to court over that. I'm just like, Oliver, you're an idiot. So the only thing I can think is that this is going to lead to him being impeached as mayor, which means now he'll be able to lead more firmly as Green Arrow because he won't have to worry about the mayor's job. That's about the only thing I can think of. I don't know. Maybe not. All I know is this show is not that interesting, and it's treating it like, oh, this is such a serious show, guys. This is serious moments here. And it's not. It's not interesting. It doesn't have my attention. I don't know. I'm not looking forward to it. So that's it for this episode. On to the next one. See you there. And now episode 18, Fundamentals. So this one was a better episode, namely because it was focused on Oliver. And while I'm not really fully invested in Oliver or Diggle or Felicity or William or pretty much anything going on with Oliver or any of the side characters, honestly. Like, I don't know, I'm not really invested. At the same time, one of the frustrating things about it is that they give so much focus to those side characters. How much time have we spent with Dinah and Curtis and Renee this season? Too much. They pretty much had their own little mini show inside of this show. And so I kind of feel like, even though I'm still not fully invested in what Oliver is going through, I still think that making this episode more about him really does kind of bring the show back to where it should be, focused on Oliver, because he is the main character. And that's something that I think the show has lost sight of from time to time, is that it typically tends to go to, hey, let's talk about how's Felicity doing, and how's Diggle doing, now how's Dinah and Curtis doing, now how Curtis in his love life, because that's a huge deal. So yeah, I do think that on that point, this is a better episode. However, like I said, still not really invested in what Oliver's going through, mainly because it feels like they're sort of manufacturing this whole plot once again. Similar to, I think, did I talk about this last season? I think I did. There's a moment last season with Prometheus where he was trying to convince Oliver that he's not the man who he is now. Oh, you're still the same man you were when you started this whole thing, even though we clearly see he's changed a lot. I mean, he's had a lot of time to. And it kind of felt like they were bringing this whole thing like, oh, maybe he hasn't changed at all. That's kind of what it feels like they're doing here again. He gets injected with vertigo, and once again it's like, oh, you haven't changed at all, Oliver, you're still the same man. And Prometheus shows back up in a hallucination. If it wasn't a hallucination, that would have been more interesting, but of course it has to be a hallucination. Then he starts hallucinating all these people that he's hurt, and they're telling him, you're not a good man, and blah, 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 and trying to make him think he's still a terrible person and all that. It just feels like we've done this story before, and it wasn't interesting when they first did it. It's still not interesting now. So anyway, that's pretty much most of what this episode is just him going through all of these people, telling him how horrible he is. I wonder what's going on with Renee's, the actor that plays Renee. I think Rick is his name, Rick Gonzalez. Apparently he's just not on the show right now, even though they got him to voice over his dialogue when he's, they have Wild Dog in the bed, but you can clearly see it's not him because the body shape looked completely different. I don't know, maybe he's on some other show right now and they could only get him to voice this dialogue for whatever reason. Just something that stood out to me. I don't know what's going on, but it appears that's why he's bedridden right now, his character, because he's not able to be on the show for whatever reason. But yeah, aside from that, I guess, talking about the mayor stuff, he does get impeached in this episode. The guy who handles the impeachment process. I don't remember what his title is, but apparently he's also working for Diaz, which once again just makes me think, who is this guy? You know, and I hate it whenever shows do this, whenever they just make these characters super powerful out of nowhere and no explanation how. You know, I felt the same way with Prometheus last season, but he was still enough of a surprise villain and honestly did a good job of making him an intimidating villain to the point where I didn't really care that, oh, he's super smart and can manipulate all these people and is always 3 steps ahead of Oliver with no explanation. He managed to make up for it because I thought he's intimidating. You know, it was surprising to find out it was Adrian Chase under the mask, and the way he tortured Oliver was not intimidating, not impulsive. What's the word I'm looking for? I don't know. It was something where I felt like I could get behind this villain because he actually was interesting, even if they didn't fully explain everything well enough. With Diaz, kind of felt the same way. You know, he outsmarted Caden James, which seems like you'd have to have super intelligence to do. How does he have super intelligence? We never learned that. He's apparently bought everyone off. Okay, how does he have the power? How does he have the knowledge? You know, where did he get the money from? All of this stuff, it's like, how is this possible? How did he manage to infiltrate so much of this, you know, the city to where now he is pretty much already running the city? Even though he hasn't really taken over yet, he pretty much has. He's got the police chief, got the chief prosecutor, district attorney, whatever. He's got this guy who's apparently in charge of the impeachment process. All these cops working for him. You're pretty much running the city. You know, how did he do that? When did he do that? It feels like it just sort of, boom, happened. And there's no explanation for it. And I can't let this one go because where Adrian Chase actually made for a good villain because of the psychological part of it, because of the surprise twist that, oh, it's Adrian Chase, all of that stuff, I could kind of let it go that, okay, he's 3 steps ahead of Oliver. We'll just say he's super smart. They're not going to explain it, but fine. You know, at least he's interesting. Diaz is not interesting. I don't know why they think, oh, what a good villain. Oh, Ricardo Diaz. Oh, he wasn't interesting when he first got introduced. He's still not interesting. He's just some guy. You know, he's some dude that was working for Caden James and they outsmarted Caden James, and that's supposed to make him intimidating for some reason. He's not. There's nothing about him that makes me think, oh, I'm scared of him. I don't care. I really don't care about him at all. But yeah, so this guy that's in charge of the impeachment process, he's the one that drugs Oliver with the vertigo. So Oliver shows up with some vertigo still inside of him to the meeting where they're going to talk about it. Of course, he starts saying some things that makes him go, oh, what? What, you're working with the Green Arrow? What, do you trust the Green Arrow? Oh my gosh, I can't believe blah, 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 blah. And all these people, of course, is like slowly leading to, oh, they don't trust him, they don't trust him. And then Oliver freaks out, goes on a rampage through the police precinct, and then is about to go take on Diaz and a ton of cops, and then Felicity manages to show up and say, look, you know, this isn't you, let's get this out of your system, you're going to die if you go in there. And he manages to find just enough sense for the vertigo to get washed out, and she takes him and sort of gets him off of it. So, yeah, that's pretty much it. He ends up getting impeached. Quentin's going to step in now as the mayor for the time being. That's pretty much it. There is a conversation between Laurel and Diaz, which I don't know what this is supposed to mean, but at one point Oliver hallucinates Diaz, who then tells him it's not a hallucination, but then he was hallucinating. But at one point he says, you know, he stabs him and says, I always wonder why people don't do that. You just come up and put a knife through you. And then he says, and then it's like he says, I don't know why people don't do that. And then he explains why. And the next second he says, you know, if you were to just get killed, you'd be more powerful as a martyr than you would be as Green Arrow. So that's explaining why he doesn't kill him. And then he explains that again to Laurel at the end of the episode. I'm just, deja vu? Like, is there a glitch in the Matrix? Like, what's going on? Are we just explaining this again? Did they throw in that hallucination after writing the episode and then forgot to take that line out or something, and so they had the line twice? It doesn't make any sense why it was said twice. You know, I don't know. It's weird. Why have that hallucination scene when you're just going to explain why he doesn't kill him later anyway? No point. They just, oh, we don't quite have enough time to have a full episode, so an extra 20 seconds right there. Now we have enough time. So, yeah, this episode was better, but there's still a lot of elements that don't work. The villain's still not compelling. Oliver's story still isn't really that interesting. The rest of the side stories that take up a majority of this season weren't talked about, but still aren't interesting, so I'm not excited to get back to those. Yeah, it's still a frustrating season, still not that interesting, ready for it to be over. Honestly, ready for this show to be over, but of course, we have another season coming somehow, despite the fact that they've clearly run out of ideas. It's kind of how I felt at the end of Elementary Season 5. Like, at the end of that season, I'm thinking to myself, okay, they've run out of ideas. And then they get renewed for Season 6. I'm like, how? What else can you do? Because now you're just having them take on some low-level gangsters. Like Sherlock Holmes taking on gangsters. Yeah, you've hit your high point. Now just keep going. No. At that point, you know you've run out of ideas. Time to stop. Season 6 of Arrow, he's taken on some random guy with no real connection to him, no real sense of why he's super smart, why he's able to take over this entire city like that. No explanation of that, but somehow still supposed to be scary. You run out of ideas. You're just throwing in random guys. I know they keep calling him the Dragon. I assume this is probably some reference to the comics or something. I don't care. He's not compelling. He's not interesting. Give up. You're done. So anyway, that's it for this episode. Now on to the next one. See you there. And now episode 19, The Dragon. So as the title of this episode tells us, this is all about Ricardo Diaz, the Dragon, and it would have been interesting if he were a better villain, honestly. Like, I'm watching this, I'm like, they're finally giving him a backstory, they're giving him a reason why he's doing all this stuff. Don't get me wrong, it's entirely cliche. You got the kid, grew up in an orphanage, had some bully that picked on him the whole time, and so he grew up wanting to be tougher. I've seen this done before. But giving him a backstory, showing his side of the story can be interesting. But he's not an interesting villain. He's not scary. He's not intimidating. He's just a random guy that we don't really know. And so it's like the writers realized, oh, we haven't even given him motivations. He's just been slowly taking over the city. We don't even know anything about him. I guess we need to have an episode where we talk about that. So they show us that. It's pretty much the entire episode. He's trying to work for this one guy, or this group called the Quadrant, who's like the 4 big gangs or something like that. He's trying to get a seat at the table. He's talking to the kid of one of the guys who's at the table. And he's like, look, I'll talk to my dad if you go do this for me. And so he goes and finds this guy he wants to see. Finds out that apparently he's talking to the feds. He's like, all right, go take care of him. Then I'll give you a seat at the table. So he goes and gets him. And then the guy shoots both of them, but he's wearing a bulletproof vest. So then he comes back, kills the kid, goes to talk to the Quadrant. The father of the kid is like, you just killed my son, now you want us not working with you ever. He shoots that guy and kills him. And then one of the women who's in, like, one of the heads of the Quadrant, she's like, look, this is not how we do things here. We are not rough, we are civilized. I'm just like, oh, so he doesn't get it. However, oh, okay. Right, I forgot, because for some reason Diaz has this ability to do whatever he wants, and it all works out for him. So even though he goes completely against what the Quadrant is, they're still like, but you intrigue us, so come on, join in, buddy. It's just kind of stupid. It's like, okay, so in his audition tape, let's just imagine for a second he's auditioning for a part in a TV show. And it's for, I don't know, let's just say it's for like a businessman type. And he sends in his audition tape and he just acts like a stoner. Like some, guy on the street, homeless, stoned off his ass. And that's the audition tape he sends in. And like, this is not at all what we were looking for. However, there's something about you we like. Come on in, buddy. You get the part. That's exactly what just happened. And don't get me wrong, sometimes that does happen just based on the look. However, this is crime bosses. This isn't some audition. No, this is actually crime bosses. And this guy is going completely against what they want at their table. And he even just killed one of the guys who's the head of the table. And the rest of them are just like, let him in. I mean, what could possibly go wrong, right? If this guy is not anything like us, what could go wrong? Stupid. And it just feels like that was entirely pointless. Him doing everything at the beginning of the episode, going tracking this guy down, getting shot, killing this guy, killing this other guy, all of it just pointless because ultimately this episode was always going to end with him getting a seat at this table because he always gets what he wants no matter what he does. I mean, honestly, he could have gone through and just killed all 4 of them at the table and somehow still would have been able to control all the gangs or something. There would have been some loophole where Diaz still gets what he wants because that's just how the show does it. I don't know what it is about this villain, but it's like the show writers are just, they don't have any ideas, so they're just like, okay, no matter what he does, he's going to succeed because he's just that awesome of a villain. And he's not. There's nothing interesting about him. And trying to give him a backstory like this, it doesn't work because he's not interesting in the first place. And so I'm not interested in his backstory. I'm not interested in why he's doing this. And apparently the only reason he's doing it, even though he somehow has all the power in Star City, he's doing it to get even more power. Okay, that's interesting. Ooh, I'm interested in that. And the other weird thing about this whole story is, for some reason, Laurel is upset with him. Like, he's going to kill this guy at the end, the bully, and she's like sitting there like, oh my gosh, like he's killing guys that are trying to kill him, and she's watching like, oh my gosh, what's wrong with him? Oh my, he's acting like a criminal. Why are you acting shocked? Yes, burning the guy in front of you, that might be a little bit extreme, but even before that, she was acting shocked when he was like taking down guys, like shooting guys, point blank range. Like, you know who you were getting into bed with. You know he was crazy. You know he was a crime lord, and yet you're acting shocked at all of this stuff. I had no idea that signing up to work and sleep with a drug lord and a crime lord means he's gonna kill people in disturbing ways. God, I thought he was a nice crime lord. I thought he was gonna give guys chances to live and stuff like that. I just can't believe it. Ugh, stupid. Aside from that, the other side of it, because the show is called Arrow, it's not about Arrow at all. Makes perfect sense. Felicity goes to talk to Curtis. They're working on their thing. And finally, about halfway through the episode, by the way, before I get to that, I will talk about the transitions between these two things, going back and forth between Diaz and Laurel doing their thing, and then Felicity and Curtis doing their thing. What transitions? Like Curtis and Felicity having some conversation about their startup, and then just cut to Diaz and Laurel. No transition, no anything. It's just, so, how you doing? Oh, I'm doing good. Diaz, where is he? Like, there's no connection between the two. Like, he's just doing his own thing, and they're doing their thing, and there's no transition phase. There's nothing to connect them. There's just two completely unrelated scenes. But yeah, Felicity and Curtis are working on their startup. About halfway through the episode, Curtis asks, oh, so the team's not a problem for you anymore? What are you talking about? And she tells him about Oliver. And of course, because he and Dinah feel justified about what they're doing, he's like, is it wrong that I want to feel satisfaction? I'm just... Yeah, it is. Because neither of you should feel satisfied or justified about what you're doing. You're both idiots. And just because Oliver's not doing well doesn't mean you get to feel justified in what you're doing. You're still stupid. And the fact that you're getting all smug about this just means I want you to die now. I want you and Dinah to not succeed even harder than I already know you're not going to, because you think that you guys are badasses in your own right, and you're not. So, but yeah, they're doing their thing, and Felicity is just talking about how she still wants to be a part of the team. She still wants to help Oliver. Oh my gosh, if I can't work with him, then how am I supposed to know he's okay? And then of course news report pops up on the TV. Explosion, and the Arrow is in the middle of it. Oh my gosh, could this mean he's dead? All of this just for Felicity to freak out, go back to Oliver's place, and then there he is. Congratulations, Arrow. Congratulations. You win the award of Pointless Episode. Congratulations. Oh my lord, like beyond the fact that we're focusing on the villain that's not interesting, giving him a backstory, trying to make him interesting, but he's not, then we have this entirely pointless episode where literally it's just Felicity and Curtis doing something, and then she starts freaking out because she wants to know where he is. Then all of a sudden, for a second, she thinks that he's dead just for him not to be dead. My mind is just blown at the fact that you made an entirely pointless episode. Entirely pointless. The only thing that happened, Diaz gets a seat at this table of the quadrant or whatever, and now he has a little bit more power than he did before. That's the only thing that happened. Aside from that, nothing changes with Oliver. Nothing changes with Team Arrow. Nothing changes with the side characters. Nothing changes with our, the bad guys and their... It's just a minor little change, and that's it. And it's bizarre to me that they somehow think, oh, we're writing a masterpiece here, guys. Like, oh, we're geniuses. We are geniuses. How many writers are working? It has to be like 2 people that have probably been eating paste all season. That has to be it, right? That's the only explanation of how this episode happened. An entirely pointless episode. It's astounding. People get paid to write this. People get paid to write this episode. How? How? Oh, my Lord. So yeah, that was this episode. The most pointless episode in Arrow over 6 seasons. Quite impressive. So anyway, that's about it for this one. On to the last of these 4 before I'm finally caught up. Thank the Lord. And then there's only 3 more episodes this season. And then next season, I'm just going to be prepared for more disappointment and frustration and stupidity. So on to the last of these episodes. See you there. And finally, episode 20, Shifting Allegiances. Thank God I don't have to watch the show anymore today. Oh, it's too much. So on the one side of it, we see Renee comes back to the team that they're on. And of course, the first thing they talk about is the fact that there's no more team on the other side. Oliver's kicked everybody away, and they're like, oh, well, go figure. I guess that's just how it is. He finally drove everyone away because we saw it coming, and they even throw in the line, unbelievable, right? We always knew it was going to come down to us and Diaz. Right. Oh my God. And that's the thing. Like, I knew this was as soon as Oliver, his whole team split up, all that happened, I knew there were going to be lines like this because this new team is just so cocky. And the writers have made them so cocky. And you know that the writers are just sitting there like, okay, we got to make them as despicable as possible when this happens. So that way, whenever Oliver gets the upper hand and he's the one that gets to fight Diaz, that's when the new team is going to be all like, oh, well, I guess we were wrong. And I'm sorry, Oliver, and all that. But it's just frustrating. It's frustrating to listen to these little punks that think they're better than Oliver, trying to be the new team and like, oh guys, we're the new guys and we're better. Yeah. So stupid. Anyway, but John manages to step in and save their lives because, they're the best team in the world, so good that they nearly died. But so John steps in, he's working with Argus, and they manage to stop this little... I don't even remember what it was. It was like Diaz and this other woman, part of the Quadrant, are trying to take out a rival gang or something like that. I don't know. It wasn't really explained very well. But basically, I mean, they have this plan to stop this woman who's a part of the Quadrant from dealing weapons through Star City. Don't really know why. Don't really know what it means. It's just stopping part of Diaz's business now, I guess. Good job. You're stopping a part of it, not the whole thing. Fantastic. But yeah, so it's the team working together. We see Renee doesn't really want to get back out there because he's scared he's going to die, and he's scared he's going to leave Zoe without a father. And of course, this leads to, at the end of the episode, Zoe saying, Dad, this is what you do. This is what you're supposed to do, so don't worry about me. And so that means Renee's going to be back in the fight next episode, and I don't care. I really don't. I don't care anything about this new team. I don't care about them trying to stop this part of the business, this large empire that Diaz has somehow put together over a matter of like maybe a couple months. They're taking like a little piece of it down. And so why should I care? So anyway, that's going on. We also see Oliver goes to try to track down Anatoly. Manages to get the Bratva to be happy with him again, but then Anatoly gives him to Diaz anyway because, like I said, Anatoly is just, for some reason, working with Diaz, and we still don't really get a good explanation. He's talking about how, he realized recently that even if there was a reason why, he's not a part of the Bratva, Oliver was still responsible somehow. He puts that pieces together, and it's just stupid. The thing is, it only feels like, okay, we need to have some sort of personal connection for Oliver in this because Diaz is just a random bad guy they've made up. So let's have Anatoly work for him. Oh, now that makes it personal for Oliver. There's no real reason for Anatoly to work with Diaz. There's never been a reason because he talks about, honor and all of that stuff. And even in this episode, he has shown that Diaz has no honor, and that's when he decides, oh, I'm not going to work with him anymore. Why did you work for him in the first place then? He's never shown honor. But because the writers need to add a personal connection, he did find honor, and he didn't like Oliver for most of the season because he blamed him for something or other and stupid stuff. You'll see me doing this a lot. It's because a migraine is forming because of this show. Okay, anyway. So that all is going on. Oliver has his fight. Anatoly realizes that, oh, you wanted me to take you to Diaz so you could fight him, have a chance to take him down. Diaz would be unhonorable, and then I would turn against him. Like, yeah, I'm sure he planned all of that. But ultimately, what it leads to, Anatoly's about to let Oliver out, but then somebody comes and says Diaz wants to see him. So Diaz is talking to him and telling him that, they had a little fight. Diaz says, if you put me on the ground, I'll leave Star City forever. If I put you on the ground, you'll leave Star City forever. And of course, they're rolling around on the ground a lot. I'm like, oh, I guess that just means if you beat him in a fight. Like, you weren't really specific on that. But yeah, ultimately, Oliver gains the upper hand, is choking him out, and then he pulls out a knife and stabs him to win the fight. And then he tells Oliver, even though I won, you can still stay in city for 25 to life. And then tells him he's pushing up his trial, so now Oliver is under arrest. He's in prison, which I don't really care because this whole thing is stupid anyway. The only way this could possibly be interesting... Hang on, I'm trying to think of a way it could be interesting. Oh yeah, it's not. It's not interesting at all. Honestly, if they expose him as the Green Arrow, so what? A lot of people already figured that. So many people suspect him of being the Green Arrow. At this point, hearing it would be like, oh, okay. So many people, it's just, who cares? And if they manage to make it out of it, okay, well then what was the point of the whole trial in the first place? It just feels like another way that Diaz is trying to, gain dominance or something. I don't know. It feels weird. It just feels like this plot device has been showing up throughout the season, and then it kind of got pushed to the side whenever Diaz popped up as a villain, and now it's being brought back up. I don't know, it just seems weird to me. On top of that, it feels like the police chief and the district attorney are still in their jobs, even though Oliver fired them from it. Tell me if I'm wrong, but in the way the news report was going, it made it sound like they're still in that position. I thought Oliver fired them. And that's why they... What's going on? Are they fired? Are they not fired? Did they give them back their jobs because, the mayor made a wrong decision, so you guys can have your jobs back? Okay, I guess, once again, Diaz, with his almighty power out of nowhere, managed to work that around. Thanks for showing us that, by the way. So all of that's going on. We also see Laurel is trying to convince Quentin to sell some sort of building or something like that to Diaz because he needs it for his operation. So now Quentin knows Laurel's working with him. She's being all like, oh my gosh, you have to do it. You have to sell it to him. He's scary. He's so scary. I'm just like, yeah, because I'm sure she would find him terrifying. I don't know. Because the thing is, looking at her through most of this season, even whenever she's working with him, when he's not around, what is she doing? He texts her and is like, good job, and she's smiling evilly. She's like, And then he starts doing evil stuff, and she's looking like, I'm just like, so do you want to work with him? Do you not want to work with him? Is he threatening you to work with him? What is going on? Because you're not making it clear. It's like this show doesn't know whether she wants to work with him or whether she's trying to be scared of him, or trying to fake being scared of him, or trying to fake being pleased to work with him. They're not making it clear, and they keep going back and forth. This episode, she's very clearly terrified of him. But last episode, whenever he was working with the Quadrant, she seemed like she was totally okay with working with him. But episode before that, she seemed like maybe she was a little bit hesitant to work with him. Make up your damn mind. Instead of flip-flopping like pancakes, just make up your mind and be like, okay, she is definitely being threatened to work with him. There's your answer. That would be fine. Or just say, no, she is not threatened to be work with him, but because she wants Quentin to still believe or help her and still wants a place to stay with Quentin, she's going to pretend that she was being threatened by Diaz. That would be fine too. But make your decision. Stop being so wishy-washy on it. Because this wishy-washy crap is pissing me off. So with all that being said, I mean, obviously I'm frustrated. Over these past 4 episodes, you could tell my frustration is very clear. There's so many reasons why. The story writers have not done a good job with this season. The characters aren't interesting. I mean, the action is probably the only good thing about it, but it's action just for pointless action. You know, the villain's not good enough, so I don't really care about the fighting going on. I don't care if Oliver stops him, because frankly, I don't care about this season. It's been such a bland and boring season that it just feels pointless. So, yeah, there's no real way that I can see that they're going to save the season at all. It just feels kind of, who cares? You know, the villain's not interesting, the new team's not interesting, Oliver's being kind of a whiny little baby. All of it just feels kind of stupid. So, yeah, that's about it. Let me know what you guys think down in the comment section below. What were your thoughts over these 4 episodes? Let me know. We can talk about and discuss all of that good stuff. Leave a like and subscribe to your Arrow Reviews, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace out.